Hello everyone. My name is Rose Simpson. I'm a librarian at the New Haven Free Public Library, and welcome to Good, Cheap, and Healthy: How to Live on $4 a Day. Our presenter today is our creative in residence, Nadine Nelson. So take it away.
Hi. All right. Hi. Happy Sunday. Happy spring. Happy to be here. I am also the chef, owner, and educator of Global Local Gourmet, and we specialize in interactive culinary events and education occasions. I am a trained educator and also a chef. I'm also an artist and an activist, and I'll probably talk about that throughout. We started a little bit late. I apologize. Some difficulties. My daughter showed me how to do stuff, so I don't have to ask her in the future, hopefully. But I am happy to be here. This is one of my favorite workshops to teach people because so many people don't know how to eat on a budget. And I grew up in a very Jamaican household. I was born in Toronto, and my mom was a young immigrant. She had me there when she was 23. And my grandparents grew up they were farmers and fishermen, and they made their own food. And so I grew up on unprocessed food. So, snacks was like making something, or eating nuts, or, it wasn't chips. Chips were like special occasion, like going to McDonald's was special occasion. So I grew up really healthy, eating healthy, and seeing like the people around me um, eat healthy and cook healthy and grow their own food and all that kind of stuff. And so, there's this whole notion that eating healthy is expensive. And I want to show people that you can eat well and it not be expensive, especially if you grow your own food. But, you know, um, if you shop smartly in the supermarket and you cook your own food. Most chefs like myself, I'm a mother, and I try and cook everything 30 minutes or less, 20 minutes or less. So we're gonna make fettuccine with some seasonal vegetables. And I already boiled the pasta, but you'll see boiling pasta, how long does that take? And you can put together this meal in less than 20 minutes with a salad. So I want to show people how to be able to make some fast meals. We're first going to start with a PowerPoint presentation that has clips of some videos about food stamped, because we couldn't show the whole documentary, which is 60 minutes, and tape the presentation. So there is a link in the materials to the video. And also, if you have a library card, you can watch it through the library, but also it is free on YouTube for you to be able to watch as part of YouTube videos. So it is 62 minutes. It's really, even though it's from 2011, it's very helpful information. So in the PowerPoint presentation, there are different clips that talk about how to be able to eat healthy in different ways, but kind of give you a context about people on food stamps, because a lot of people might have different notions that might not be what reality is. And so that's part of the presentation. And also along with tips on how to buy food at the supermarket and how to be able to menu plan. And so we'll start off with the PowerPoint presentation with video. We'll end with questions, but we're going to do that. Well, after the video ends, just around probably like 30 minutes, the presentation, 25, 30 minutes. And then we'll cook, and then we will do the menu planning. And so that will be the order of events. All right. So Rose, you can go.
All right, one moment.
Soleil, could you pass me a chair? So Rose is going to run the presentation for me, and I will read or talk over it.
Okay, and let me know when you want me to advance the slide.
Okay. All right.
There we go.
How to live on $4 a day, the EBT daily budget. Learn how to menu plan and get concrete suggestions to be more inventive in the kitchen. We will watch parts of the documentary, Food Stamped, and participate in an interactive food demo, cooking dishes that are good, cheap, and healthy, and a workshop by Nadine Nelson. Next slide, please. So the workshop agenda, we're going to talk about right now, like food stamps and who is on food stamps. Why is that a national issue? What are some of the specific actions we can take on every level of society to provide food justice and food sovereignty for all? Cooking on a budget. We will make popcorn, we'll make broccoli and apple salad, black-eyed peas and collard greens on toast, fettuccine with cream sauce, and a tomato and eggplant sauce. I will show you how to menu plan and give you some food budgeting tips all along the way. We'll learn how to plan and about resources to help budget for food and save money. And so to make it a little interesting, Soleil, can you come here please for a second? I'll show you about the popcorn. So I popped the popcorn earlier, and popcorn, can you pass me that tray please? Is a great snack because it's really inexpensive if you buy it raw, the kernels, and it's really easy to pop if you have a popper, but then also it's just easy to be able to pop. It's easy to be able to pop on the stove. So here's my popcorn. And then, you know, you can have all different types of seasonings. So there's, you know, Cajun Creole. And in the book by Leanne Brown, Good, Cheap, and Healthy, and we're going to talk about that in the presentation, the book that you can download that's in the packet, but also you can just find it online, Good, Cheap, and Healthy by Leanne Brown. It's a PDF that's downloadable. She has different spice blends that you can make yourself with pantry items that you might have in your kitchen. If you are vegan and you like Parmesan cheese, you like that kind of umami, mushroom, kind of cheesy taste, nutritional yeast. And these are just different spices from a variety of places. This is elote, which, you know, you put on corn. And so it's salt, chili pepper, cheese, chipotle, and cumin. I have some chili lime.
Maybe better to show those again when you're full screen and when you're not a tiny picture in the corner.
Okay. Oh, all right. All right. Yeah. So, well, the whole idea, when afterwards I'll do that. And we'll talk about pantry building and building up your spice mixes and stuff like that in the presentation. And feel free to also ask me questions or put in the chat, and Rose will be able to communicate to me. All right. So, yeah, next slide, please. So Food Stamped is an informative and humorous documentary film following Shira Potash and her documentary filmmaker husband Yoav as they attempt to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet on the food stamp budget. Through their adventures, they consult the members of US Congress, food justice organizations, nutrition experts, and people living on food stamps to take a deep look at America's broken food system. And so there is a link for you to be able to watch, and this presentation is open for you to be able to see whenever you want to. All right, if you could play the film, thank you.
The economic downturn is forcing a lot of people to do something they never thought they'd have to do.
With food prices climbing, more and more Americans these days are struggling to feed their families.
The country is paying more than it ever has at the grocery store. Food prices are rising at the highest rate since 1990.
The recession could actually be expanding American waistlines. Health experts pointing to several studies that link obesity to lower incomes.
Right now we're seeing a major health crisis in the country, and it's just the beginning. It's going to get a lot worse.
Do you consider yourself homeless? As of right now, yes.
You might be eligible for emergency food stamps.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever done the food stamp diet?
I haven't done the food stamp diet.
So how'd you get so skinny?
Do you remember what the yellow stuff is called? Squash.
squash. What about you? You like it?
On the eggs. Now normally we would be adding cheese, but we just can't afford it. We did take some free sample cheese.
So what's the difference between the pork and the chicken?
That's flavored to taste like pork, and this is flavored to taste like chicken. And that's really the only difference I can tell you about.
You get 1 spoonful of peanut butter a day.
Coffee or you're choosing lettuce over coffee?
Coffee's $10 a pound. Looks pretty good for $1 a meal, right?
I'm not stuffed. Hopefully I can not need to eat more.
We gotta make sure that we don't eat everything.
Try to get every last bit. We're living on a budget.
82 cents a check for 82 cents. Oh, no, that one's got mold.
Next slide. SNAP's role in improving health is crucially important. Given the high rates of food insecurity, obesity, and diet-related chronic disease in the nation. And I thought I haven't done this workshop in a while, but you know, the documentary is from 2011, but I thought it was so ironic, the foreshadowing that we're going through a pandemic and how many people, because they've lost their job, and for a variety of reasons, how many more people are on food stamps now, and how important this workshop is more than ever to show people, even if you're not on food stamps, what are ways in which you can save money, because food is one of our biggest expenses. Next slide, and it is a video that goes into a little bit more detail and a summary of what food stamps is all about, their whole process throughout the whole week. Because his wife is a nutritionist, it's really good if you're really especially concerned about your diet, if you might have diabetes, or you might, your doctor is saying that, you know, you're like you might have hypertension, you know, you need to be looking out for it. That because she's a dietitian, not only do they buy things, they buy very healthy things. So you see that, but the video goes through what a process is like working with a dietitian that I think that is really helpful. So this is like really 3-minute small little clip that surmises like what food stamp the whole documentary is.
I'm Yoav Potash, and this is my wife Shira Potash, and we're a filmmaking team.
For 1 week, we will both attempt to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet on roughly $1 per meal.
$1.19 per meal, so per person. So for the two of us, that was close to $50. To make healthy meals at that price is not easy. It's a real stretch, a real balancing act.
It's possible, but there's a lot of barriers to eating healthy on that kind of a budget. I'm a nutrition educator, and I work in low-income schools where I teach kids how to cook, and I'm teaching them how to cook healthy food. But it occurred to me, you know, can the families even afford to make the kinds of food we're teaching them in class? So that was the inspiration for us to take the food stamp challenge.
Doesn't it smell good?
Going shopping for the week was a challenge for us. We had to bicker about whether or not we could have coffee, you know, whether or not we could have cheese, and looking at these things that we tend to think of as daily staples suddenly it became luxuries.
Even with all of our planning, rationing, our access to healthy food choices, and my nutrition know-how, we still came out short.
I'm not stuffed.
We hadn't even considered the possibility that we weren't getting enough calories.
I think the film does reveal a number of contradictions when you look at the big picture of food policy in America today. if we're subsidizing only a few crops that tend to get made into junk food, and then we're subsidizing people to be able to put food on their plate, but only in a small amount, so they have to really stretch every dollar, they naturally gravitate towards those cheapest foods and end up with obesity problems. And that's exactly what we're seeing in America today.
And on top of that, then the government also is subsidizing the health care. There's an opportunity for the government to shift the subsidies, to shift it so that maybe fruits and vegetables are given more farm subsidies. They get a little, and they got more in the last cycle of the Farm Bill when it was reauthorized in 2008. But it still is so small compared to the large, billions of dollars that are given to corn, soy, wheat farmers.
When we started making this film, we wanted to put a statistic in the film about how many people are on food stamps. So we said, well, 1 in 10 Americans are on food stamps. And then we're editing and shooting, and then, we said, we have to change it. It's 1 in 9 now. So we change the graphic, we change it. Then it's 1 in 8. Now I think we're nearing 1 in 7. So as over the course of the couple years it took to produce this film and edit it, we've seen the problem become exacerbated. Some of what we depict in the film, like community gardens, that's a real bottom-up type of solution. Others, like changing the Farm Bill, is very top-down, and we need people like the president involved in that kind of approach. So it can't happen only from one side or only from the other. It really takes a comprehensive look.
That's good.
I'm Yoav Pote.
Next slide. So what is SNAP? SNAP provides important nutritional support for low-wage working families or under-resourced families, low-income seniors, and people with disabilities living on fixed incomes, and other individuals and households with low incomes. More than 2/3 of SNAP participants are families with children. 1/3 are households with seniors or people with disabilities. After unemployment insurance is the most responsive federal program providing additional assistance during economic downturns. The federal government pays the full cost of SNAP benefits and splits the cost of administering the program with the states which operate the program. Right. Next slide, please. How much do households receive in benefits? And so people receive almost $127 per person a month. That comes out to $4.17 a day, or $1.39 per meal. And that is in 2018. So it might be a little bit more, but I don't really think it is. And then I put on the other side for people to understand and get some kind of consensus about who gets SNAP in a state, in a visual sense. So this is in Pennsylvania. There are 1.8 million people in Pennsylvania at this time. I didn't put the date on there, find the date, but how many children, adults, people with disability, and then people who are able-bodied. And a lot of people feel like people who are on SNAP are not working, and the majority of people that are on SNAP are actually working 40 hours a week and just do not make enough money. They're below the poverty line. So that's something that's really important to understand. And especially with what happens, like some people have been out of work for a year and maybe their unemployment benefits have expired, or maybe they weren't eligible for unemployment benefits, because if you're a dancer, for instance, you're probably not going to be eligible for unemployment benefits. It might be hard for you to get PPE, for instance. All right, next slide. And there's two videos that show a kind of a juxtaposition of people on food stamps, because the first person is a person that went to Duke University and works for a nonprofit organization, but they only make $19,000, or they'll say how much money they make. And another person is a single parent. But there's people who have their PhDs and are professors that are eligible for SNAP. And I think that it's important to understand, like, we need to talk about, wages and having living wages as we are talking about raising the minimum wage. The minimum wage still doesn't cover what someone needs to live in any state, even in Mississippi or down south where the expenses are cheaper.
I'm Sarah Nolan, I'm 24 years old, and I serve as an AmeriCorps Fellow at Habitat for Humanity. I make $19K over 11 months. The math just wasn't adding up, and I realized despite my hatred of paperwork and despite the fact that it made me kind of uncomfortable, I had to apply for food stamps.
I just dished out way more than 99 cents on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
I'm looking at different apple varieties and pounds and how much it costs per pound and trying to do some mental math, which is not exactly my strong suit.
Where'd you go shopping yesterday?
I went to Trader Joe's. Nice. I also went to the farmer's market, which you can shop at the farmer's market on food stamps.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're looking at price?
I'm looking at price. It's sort of, I have this desire to buy organic. I agree with it too, but also, occasionally I'll buy stuff and I'll take the stickers off so my roommates don't know one way or the other if it's organic or not. They're gonna get mad at me if it's not organic. Can you even buy organic vanilla extract? I can go comparison shopping. If I was like the head of a household and I was really busy and I was working 2 jobs, multiple shifts, I think it'd be way harder to eat healthy.
Were there things that were like you thought of as luxuries before that now you can get? Do you think you're
Yeah,
splurging
oh my
on
gosh,
anything?
I bought goat cheese yesterday. It was really exciting. I think it's a big conundrum. It's not just solved by like having enough money for food, so food stamps get you part of the way there, but it's hard. I make about $750 every 2 weeks, and I spend $750 of it on rent a month.
I mean, a lot of people will say, well, you have a degree from Duke University. You could easily be making a salary way more than $19,000 a year and not being on food stamps. What do you say to that?
I felt really bad about being on food stamps for a while. They're just for people who really, really need it, I thought, and I'm like living this flippant lifestyle in San Francisco.
Do you think you really, really need it?
Well, yeah, and eventually I just sort of realized that even though I'm 24, like, I still have responsibilities, I still have like hopes for my future, and if I need to be on food stamps to make that happen, then maybe I do really need it. You can cut the zucchinis.
Okay, should I do it here?
Yeah, go for it. So I'm sort of torn because I am like using the same services with a lot of our beneficiaries, people that I work for at Habitat, but like it's strange to be in the same programs the people I'm helping are in, and I feel like, did I really succeed with my Duke degree if I'm at this point? Like part of the reason I'm doing all these sacrifices to do what I do is because I like it. Like I like talking to people about what's going on in their lives. I like it more than selling people furniture, which is what I did last year. Things they don't maybe need.
You made more money doing that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I made like a normal Bay Area salary then. And I was in a position, like we were talking about earlier, where I was privileged enough to do something different, take a risk. Like, I'm 24, there's definitely real stuff at stake. Like, I shouldn't be complacent in a job I don't like, but I can still fail a couple more times and hopefully figure it out from there.
Do you consider yourself part of the working poor?
Yes, I am working and I am currently low income. I think the difference for me and a lot of other millennials is we see it as transitory. Like, I have more friends than I initially would have thought that are on food stamps or couch surfing instead of living somewhere. A lot of people make sacrifices to sort of be on the right path, and sometimes it takes you to these sorts of places where you're on food stamps.
What is a food stamp? First thing is, these days they're not actually stamps, but government debit cards. They're given to people with low income to buy an average of $125 worth of food per month.
Next slide.
The assistance programs in the United States. are very hard to qualify for. It's like either you're starving or you don't get any help. But what defines starving? Like if you don't eat for a day, are you starving? In their eyes, no, but in your eyes and the way you feel, of course. Okay. Good job.
Mom, can I do the white one?
Okay. Put that in the water.
Wait, Goopy gotta break it?
No, you don't gotta break it. It's Aiden's turn to help too. Put that in there. Okay, that was a bad idea. I do get food stamps now, but they last about 3 weeks out of the month. And for that last week, I'm just going crazy. Is it good? Mm-hmm. Put them in there. The ones that I cut.
Making.
What you make?
I lived on a food stamp diet for a week, along with Joanne Emerson from Missouri. We did so because we thought that the food stamp benefit was inadequate. Most of my colleagues had no idea that the average food stamp benefit was $3 a day. I had my budget, and I went to a supermarket, and it took me an awful long time because you have to add up every penny, and it has to last you for a week. And so I did it, and I will tell you, I was tired, I was cranky, I couldn't drink coffee because coffee was too expensive. I mean, there were people who were living on that food stamp allocation, and you really can't. For us, it was an exercise that ended in a week. For millions of other people in this country, that's their way of life. Every day is a struggle, just to eat.
Next slide.
The assistance programs in the United States.
So this is the percentage of families with workers receiving supplemental nutrition assistance, SNAP benefits by type, just to give people an idea. Next slide. What are some of the things we can do? So we can cook our own food. So that's why we're doing this workshop. That's why you're here, hopefully, to make a commitment to cooking your own food, which is a revolutionary act. Because when you cook your own food, you know where your food comes from. You're saving money, which you can add for more nourishment for something else or a fun activity. Work with a food bank, support mutual aid and networks. That has been really big during this time of COVID, especially for people who do not have access to government funds. Get political and contact your representatives, create and support a community fridge, organize a food drive, start or volunteer with a community garden, join or start a food policy council. So I'm chair of the Cooking and Food Education Group of the New Haven Food Policy Council. And there are around 24 formal food policy councils, I think, that have a director of food policy. But you can start an informal one. You can start a wellness group at your, church or your, community affiliation at your child's school. You can do many different things that support food sovereignty, your own and other people in some way. All right. So now we're going to get into how to cook good, cheap, and healthy. And so we're going to give you some tips. You're going to learn about Leanne Brown and the downloadable book that she created during getting her master's at NYU. And there's a couple more slides, and then we'll get to cooking.
All right, want me to show this clip?
Yep. Thank you.
Can you eat delicious, healthy food on $4 a day? Leanne Brown took on this challenge. She created the book Good and Cheap, Eat Well on $4 a Day. It began as a free download on her site. It went viral to the tune of 500,000 downloads. Can you do it 3 meals on $4 a day?
I believe you can, and that is not to say that it is easy or that it is a good situation. Really, it's tough, but there are 46 million people in this country who are doing it every day. $4 a day means something really specific. It's the amount on average that a person who is living on food stamps has to work with. It's better to think about it more in terms of $30 a week, maybe $120 a month. It's like a budget range.
So give me some examples.
Because it's high summer and we have beautiful tomatoes and cucumbers, I've been really into making the panzanella salad, which is just this very old school Italian salad. It's based in day-old bread, hard bread that you knock on the side of the table and would probably just throw out. But instead, you tear it up, throw it into your bowl with juicy tomatoes and luscious cucumbers, and you toss it all together, and the hard bread becomes like this flavor sponge and the perfect summer lunch.
Talk about your burger.
Oh, the half veggie burger, yes. One thing a lot of people notice that there isn't a huge amount of meat in the book, and that's for totally practical reasons. Meat can be very expensive, and we don't need quite as much of that protein as people sort of traditionally think. And so a half veggie burger is basically a way to have that flavor that is so important for a lot of people while stretching that out with lentils or with ground up chickpeas, other legumes, and vegetables in the burger. And you can use it a few different ways. You'll use those patties to have burgers one day, and then the next day you might use it for breakfast, or you might throw it onto a salad.
What should we have on hand in stocking the pantry?
Well, I think we all want to try to build for ourselves a really great pantry of flexible, basic things like grains, dried beans, cans of tomatoes. I always have lemons on hand, lemons or limes to sort of squeeze onto things, garlic. These are my basics. When you have those things around, you can augment that with fresh, seasonal fruits and vegetables.
It's a great idea. And by the way, for every book sold, another copy goes to someone who needs it.
Next slide.
3 meals.
Okay, so yeah, eating healthy on a budget. Next slide. Create a grocery plan list. And some people, they like to be spontaneous, but being spontaneous makes you go to the supermarket all the time. And, if we were living in a place that had farmers markets and it was more like, Europe or, the Caribbean or Africa where, you're used to, or Latin America where you're used to going to outdoor markets like a couple times a week, and you probably have a really small fridge and you're not wasting on a regular. But in America, oftentimes we have a freezer, we have a deep freeze, and it can make us either buy too much of stuff that we don't need, or buy fresh things, for instance, saying that we're going to make a salad and then not, and then wasting it. So it's really good to come up with a grocery list, to look at what you have, to build up your pantry week by week. So Worcestershire sauce, where people are like, who uses Worcestershire sauce? There's different things that you can use Worcestershire sauce for other than Caesar salad dressing. And you can use it for marinades. You can use it for other types of salad dressings. You can use it for stir fries. But if you week by week add to your pantry, like rice and then quinoa and then millet each week, all those things last a long time, and you'll have a lot of things to play with, and your grocery bill will go down. Create a worksheet to plan meals, and we'll talk about that, how to do that. Think about your schedule and think about things that if you're only going to have half an hour on one day, choose something that's going to be half an hour. We're going to the summer, choose something that you don't have to cook, for instance, or if you know that you're going to be really, really busy, put something in a slow cooker and cook it overnight or when you're at work. Use your list weekly meals to create a list of foods and beverages that you're going to use. So if you plan out your meals, and you write your list from that, then you're going to be able to buy things that you're going to actually use, as opposed to going for a free for all and just saying, okay, let me buy this, let me buy that. And you end up not using any of it and then ordering takeout. Next slide, please. Shop wisely. Discount stores, Odd Lot, Christmas Tree Shop. I don't know where people are watching from. If you're in Connecticut, these are things that are in Connecticut or in the Northeast. Farmers markets, ethnic markets. Ethnic markets are really great for your condiments like soy sauce or, miso or dried hot peppers. You're going to be able to find them very cheaply at the ethnic market. And also produce comes on a daily basis, and so the produce is going to be fresh, and then oftentimes also protein like fish can also be very fresh too. So you can, depending on the market, you can see what you're able to get there. So like, for instance, I'm going to be making black eyed peas and collard greens. I bought a big bag of black eyed peas in the December, and I've been using it like every month during my cooking classes. And I don't know, like, it was a huge bag, and I don't think it was not more than $10, but it will last probably all year. Go to the dollar store. If that's all that you have available, you can get beans there. You can get cans of tomatoes. Retail super centers, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Home Goods. They have things like on Himalayan salt or different grains or different spices that are really inexpensive. Next slide, please. Fruit and vegetable tips. Buy fruits and vegetables in all their forms, fresh, frozen, and canned. Buy in season. When something's in season, it's going to be cheaper. Buy canned or frozen produce year round. Choose fruit canned with 100% fruit juice, and vegetables that are low sodium or no salt added on the label. Next slide, please. Grains, store brands can save you more money. You can use whole grains in anything: crackers, cereal, tortillas. Rice and pasta are budget-friendly grain options, and you can get them in whole grain. Like you can get chickpea also that are if you're gluten free. You can try other whole grains like quinoa, farro, fonio to mix it up. A lot of those things like fonio or millet don't take a long time. They're like couscous. They take only less than 5 minutes to cook. Protein, next slide, please. Use healthy and affordable protein like beans, eggs, and canned fish several times per week. Wonderful low-cost choices include beans and peas. Buy family-sized or value pack. And freeze when you don't use them. Mix meat with beans or mushrooms to stretch. And instead of, like in America, people love chicken breasts, chicken thighs are usually more inexpensive, and then also eating chicken on the bone, or use meat on the bone, or cuts of meat that are cheaper, like filet mignon is one thing, but chuck is another. And you can do a chuck roast on a Sunday, and you can use that throughout the week in a soup or in tortillas, quesadillas, stuff like that. Next slide. How to menu plan. Give each day a theme. So in the packet that I give, there's a different theme for each day. So I'm going to try and remember the themes, but you can also just go to them. So Meatless Monday. So Meatless Monday, if you have your calendar and you say Monday is all meatless. And so you say one Monday, you're going to make tofu stir fry. Another Monday, you're going to make eggplant with miso. Another Monday, you're going to have tamales with beans and mock meat. Another Monday, you're going to have fried rice, beans and rice, and some grilled or roasted vegetables. And so Tuesday would be, things like with tortillas or tamales, stuff like that. So you could have quesadillas, fajitas, things like that. Wednesday could be, when I was growing up, it was pasta. So it's like, Italian pasta, but it could just be noodles. And so you can have Italian pasta one day, you could have rice noodles another day, you could have soba noodles another day, and you could have a baked pasta another day. Thursdays could be all chicken dishes, Fridays could be like fun foods like pizza, dumplings, things that may take a little longer, but as a family that you might want to do together. On the weekends, you go to the farmer's market. So it could be seasonal Saturdays where you have more time to be able to make, dishes like roast different pans of vegetables. So you have them at your disposal during the week, and then Sunday could be like Sunday dinner, things that take a longer time, like a roasted chicken or a baked pasta or a paella, for instance, or a tagine, like a long cooked casserole or something like that. So when you do stuff like that, then you see like your themes, and you can buy chicken for the month, that you're gonna have chicken. Sometimes like with clients, like they like ground meat. So you could say ground meat, and then you have ground beef, you have ground chicken, you have ground turkey, so and in those kind of ground meat, you can make sauce, of course, but then you can make kafka, which are from the Middle East, and they're seasoned meatballs like with herbs and spices, and you grill them. You can make picadillo. It's that's from the Spanish Caribbean, and so that has ground meat, tomatoes, capers. Sometimes it has peas, but that's a really great dish with sometimes you have potatoes in it, and you can eat it over rice, or you can make them into empanadas if you have leftovers, for instance, or you can make them into potato rellenos, which is like potatoes that has a stuffing, and then you fry them, or you can bake them in the oven. And so when you make things, like you can think about like my roast chicken, you can use it for quesadillas during the week. You can use it when there's nothing left to make a nice pho, or broth for tortilla soup, you know, or just a traditional chicken noodle soup. Next slide. So we have the menu planning questions, and we'll get back to those after we come back from cooking. And so, what the government asks is that for like in regard to healthy meal planning is eating half your plate in vegetables. And so that's what it looks like each kind of meal. Is that possible? And back in the day, our grandparents, our forefathers, they ate meals that weren't filled with vegetables. And in Italy, where like Connecticut is a very Italian state, I think it's the third highest state of Italians in the country. So translated, cucina povera means poor kitchen, but it really refers to frugal genius of poor Italian cooks who made the most of gardens, forests, oceans, and backyard coops. Anything abundant and affordable became the backbone of a dish. Also, anything left over, as with the use of bread and salads and soups or breadcrumbs with pastas, the approach isn't unique to Italy, of course. Every culture has beloved dishes with roots in the flavors of necessity. Tim Sabula. So, I'm Jamaican, and in the Caribbean, we have rice and beans, and we have soups that are made with tubers and greens and pumpkin in it. We might have meat, but we're using, like chicken foot soup or cow foot soup, or we're using oxtails and things. There's a thing called fish tea, and that's the fish that's not very big. It doesn't have very much meat on there. That's used as a broth, and it has a thing called chocho, which is a squash. It has usually green banana, onions. Very simple, but very refreshing, but nothing is wasted. Right, next slide, please. The next slide. Oh, let people see that first. Okay. Yeah, so they could see, like what half vegetables on your plate for the whole day looks like, and how festive it can look, because this is like really bright. A lot of people look at vegetables and eating healthy as that it doesn't have to be boring. It can be really, eating the rainbow can be really beautiful and also delicious. Next slide, please. Decolonize your diet, or people must regain the self-sufficient capacity to provide our own food, clothing, shelter, and medicines. Ultimately, important to the struggle for freedom is the reconstitution of our own sick and weakened physical bodies and community relationships, accomplished through a return to the natural sources of food and the active, hardworking physical lives lived by our ancestors. Jim, Katasi. Next slide. And so this is like the different varieties of what like fruit and vegetables on one side, different types of grains and different types of lean protein, what all those different varieties can look like. And then there's one last video. This is all supports like food sovereignty, food security. I don't like the term food desert they use here because I like the word, food swamp or food sovereignty. Because when we use the word desert, it denotes that there's nothing there and there's always life wherever we are. And a lot of times in under-resourced neighborhoods, they're very highly supportive of each other and create organic systems that are not acknowledged by the mainstream. And so you might not have a market that has vegetables, but you'll have a community garden and you might have someone who's growing food that shares it with their neighbor. You might not have a restaurant, but you have a place that does weekly fish fries or barbecue, so those are things that are not acknowledged in the word food desert.
Not everyone knows where their next meal is coming from. And if they do, it's not always nearby. A food desert is a place where families can find crayons, dishwashers, dog food, laundry detergent, soda, beauty products, diapers, chips, alcohol, and lottery tickets. But they can't find affordable, nutritious food. And food deserts can be anywhere, in the middle of a city or even in the middle of the Farm Belt. Sometimes people use terms like food security and food sovereignty when talking about our food system. They even use the terms interchangeably, though they mean completely different things. Erica Allen of Chicago's Growing Power explains that food security is having consistent year-round access to safe, local, affordable, and culturally appropriate food. Or you could simply say, food security means knowing where your next meal is coming from. Because in many places on the globe, people don't. Once you have access to food, the next question becomes, whose food is it? After Xu Yen Pham lost her New Orleans home to Hurricane Katrina, she turned the property into a farm to feed her community. Food sovereignty is a term used to explain your rights when it comes to food, not so much as an individual, but as a community. In 1993, farm workers and small food producers from around the world gathered in Mons, Belgium. They formed La Via Campesina, or the Peasant's Way, to protect their rights to control what they eat and who grows it. They're taking back control over their local and regional food systems. Because food is a basic right for all people. And this fight for good food is nothing less than a revolution. The choices you make as a consumer can be felt halfway around the world. You can empower food producers and even topple governments, because everyone has the right to safe, affordable food. To learn more about terms like food security, food sovereignty, food deserts, and food justice, visit lexiconofsustainability.com. And remember, your words can change the world.
The end. Okay. Should I show the spices now?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. I like different spice mixes. I make different spice mixes, but then it's one of the things that I love going to ethnic markets and specialty markets and buying those kinds of things because I make my own food, mostly. So this is citrusy garlic. This is chili lime. So if you, buy a whole bunch of different roasted vegetables, you can line them up by sort, by type, and then sprinkle a little olive oil and then different seasoning. So not everything tastes the same. I do that a lot on Sundays. Everything elote. I love this Creole seasoning. It's $1.23, I think, from Walmart, but they have it everywhere. But it's like one of those all-purpose seasonings. I was saying about nutritional yeast. You have good old Italian seasoning that we're going to use on some stuff. You have Japanese all-purpose seasoning. You can get furikake. You can get it at the Japanese market. This is from Trader Joe's, but at the Japanese markets can be really inexpensive. Smoked paprika, great on anything, everything. All the rage, everything bagel. So you can use these on, you see, like the popcorn is all done. And I had put on there a little onion salt. And I put one of the Mexican ones. I think I put the everything elote, and then I put a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese also. One of the things I'll get into cooking that I love from Trader Joe's is the shelf-stable heavy cream. And so we're using that for fettuccine. You can also use, if you want to, oat milk, or you can use evaporated milk. So, like they were saying, I want you to be adaptable. I have recipes here for you, but I'm very much a freestyle cook. So you can follow the recipes. Leanne Brown, those recipes are from Leanne Brown, from her book, but in the packet, I took the ones that we're doing in here. So, what am I gonna make first? I'm gonna make the toast first. So black-eyed pea toast. So I boiled some black-eyed peas already. Can you see? You want to do the spotlight on here? Or which one you want to do? Rose?
Hmm?
Do you want to leave it the way that it is?
Let's see.
You can do it doesn't
There we
matter
go.
to me. I'm
Let's
just
switch
saying
that to
that.
gallery view so we can see that one a little better.
Okay. So, ooh. All right. So I'm gonna put a little bit of olive oil in here. I was heating up my cast iron pot. Okay, so I just boiled these black-eyed peas. It's like dried black-eyed peas. And they don't take a long time. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna saute some onions. And when you're using humble ingredients, you want to coax out the flavor and through like browning and caramelization. So when you cook an onion, if you do it nice, and make sure that you get a caramelization on there, it adds so much depth of flavor to what you're eating. And so like if we're using very humble ingredients, we're using black-eyed peas, we're using collard greens. So I have these collard greens that I already have cut. And so we're going to do a cut called chiffonade. And chiffonade is just a fancy term for doing a ribbon cut. And so we're going to take out the seam or backbone of the collard green. And so you can save these and cut them up really thinly. And you can add them to soups, or if you're cooking collard greens a little bit longer, if you have some collard greens that you're cooking longer, you can do that. Or you can pickle them. I love to pickle them. And then you just cut them really small and you do a brine that you would normally do, just a little high. Turn this down a little bit. And the pickled collard greens are great on gumbo, anything like a stew or, you know, rice and beans. You want a little bit of crunch. They're really good. So you line up your collard greens and then you're just going to roll them. You just roll them. And then you just cut it in ribbons. And when you cut it like this is, especially if you do it really even smaller, I'm trying to do some of them really smaller so you can see. This is how Brazilians cook collard greens, and they don't cook them for very long because they're cut so small in these ribbons. So I'm just going to smash a little bit of garlic. You can also, if you don't have fresh garlic, you can use garlic if you have it, you know, in the fridge. You can use garlic powder. Just use what you have. Leanne, in the cookbook, she has seasonings, but she's kind of light, like for instance, for this recipe. So I'm gonna make it kind of smoky because I like my collard greens smoky. I guess I like my onions a little toasty too. I just put the black eyed peas in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of water. I should have saved a little bit of water. I do have a little bit of water on the back though, actually. And so I'm going to use some of the Creole seasoning. And then I'm going to use some smoked pepper. So I didn't put any here. And I'm going to just put a little pat of butter for a little luster. And as I said, if you're not using a lot of ingredients, then you want to punch up flavor in different ways. So a little bit of the butter adds a little bit of creaminess. If you don't want to do that, if you're making it vegan, then you don't have to add butter. You can just use coconut oil, or I used olive oil at the beginning. So you cook it down to whatever consistency you want. And then you put it on toast, or you can have it with cornbread. But that is a nice, easy, nutrient-dense little toast. You know, people love their avocado toast. So you can do toast in lots of different ways. I guess I should have done my salad first. Well, I could do my salad now. Appetizer salad. Does anyone have any questions? Did anyone have any questions?
Nothing so far. And for anyone who's watching on Facebook, I'm watching the chat there as well. So if you post in the chat on Zoom or on Facebook, I'll be happy to read off your questions.
All right. So we have the broccoli and apple salad. And Can you see that, Rose?
Yep.
Broccoli and apple salad. I didn't have broccoli. I didn't want to leave my house today, so I just used everything that was in my house. And so I also want to prove the point from her book that if you have a well-stocked pantry, then you can just use what you have. A lot of the recipes are, oatmeal, um, um, chickpeas and beets. I always have either canned beets, pickled beets, roasted beets that are already roasted, or like right now I have like real beets and roasted beets. Chickpeas and beets, rice, um, so just stuff that you normally have in your house. And um, Brussels sprouts are part of the broccoli family, and so I just slice them really thin. Right here, I have some scallions and nuts. That's not in the recipe. That's just added by me to add a little bit of fun. And I love onion. It offsets. I just love like onion. Here's apples. So this is a recipe that's like you can do it with broccoli, you could do it with cauliflower, you could do it with carrots, you could do it however you want to. We're gonna make a creamy dressing, and this is like 1 tablespoon of yogurt. I have a little bit of olive oil, lemon juice, and I didn't have dill. So you can either use dry dill, but I'm gonna use parsley. So you just adapt. All right, so there is that. I'll use a little bit of lemon juice. Use your hands to catch any seeds. I'm gonna keep this outside because there is lemon zest in something. Here's a little bit of salt. And you can just use regular vinegar, but this is from last year and it's really great, is ramp vinegar. And since it's ramp season and the spring, I want to showcase my ramp vinegar. Use a little bit of that. And then some olive oil. And that's a simple dressing that tastes better. That's part of the ramps. Than what and then you would buy, and it's surely a lot more inexpensive. All right, and tastes really good. Just mix it around, and then it's 4 o'clock. By 5, the lemon juice and the yogurt will break down the Brussels sprouts, and also it will make sure that the apples don't brown. So that's a salad. And she has some other nice salads inside there, like in the piece for the news. There was the panzanella salad, and we're coming into summer, and said that Connecticut has a lot of Italians. We always have Italian bread. You can make a bread pudding. You can make a savory bread pudding. I don't know if people know that, but then also you can, make a panzanella salad, or you can make a sweetbread pudding, or you can make croutons for Caesar salad dressing. All right, so I'm gonna be making the pastas. I am going to make, I'm gonna make the eggplant sauce because that's gonna take longer. Then I'm gonna do fettuccine sauce. So there's a tomato sauce recipe, and then I am adding, in her book, she has an eggplant recipe, and someone in my household took out ground meat and So I'm just adding that and showing people that um, her book doesn't have a lot of meat in there. And so I'm showing you how like people usually have traditional tomato sauce. And so this has eggplant in there, which is also many cultures, whether it be Greek culture, Middle Eastern, Latino culture, like Dominican, Cuban, they have eggplant dishes that have tomatoes. That this is just that can either go, it can be vegan, or it can have meat in there. And this just so happens to have meat. Does anyone have any questions? So I'm just heating up the pan again. We're gonna use some onions. And we're just gonna saute the onions and brown them. And when the onions are brown, we're gonna use a little sofrito. So I'm gonna make it a little Latin style, because in New Haven, we have a lot of people from all different Latino countries, but especially from the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. So this is sofrito that I bought, and you can always make your own sofrito. If you're Haitian, you might call it a piece, or in the English Caribbean, we have our own version called green seasoning. So it's the base of a lot of our sauces. So it's already made and it's usually in a jar. I have sisters-in-laws that are Haitian, and so when my brother and they come, like their family members will make a piece, EPIS. So their version of green seasoning, and then I also have a sister-in-law that's Puerto Rican and Dominican, so they always have sofrito. We're just gonna brown that. I'm just gonna season up some of this beef with, I put a little Cajun seasoning and then a little bit of the onion seasoning. And you can put sofrito or something like that if you wanted to. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I just want to get some browning on there. Like I said about humble ingredients. When you brown something, it adds an extra layer of flavor than if it wasn't brown. All right, so I'm gonna put a little bit of sofrito in there. If you wanted to, you could add some bay leaf. You could add some garlic. I'm really over here. I'm not feeling putting any more garlic in there. So I think I did put a little bit of garlic powder. I'll put a little bit more. And in the sofrito, there is garlic powder, and that's a way to cut down on how many different things you have to break down for a dish. I'm gonna put my eggplant in here. I'm going to start putting, oh, I don't need to, I'm going to use the canned tomatoes. So that will break down easier than whole tomatoes. So I'll let it just cook down a little bit. That's just going to take some time. If I want to make it a shorter time, I cut up the eggplant a little bit smaller. So we're going to be getting ready to make, after this, a fettuccine Alfredo. And Marianne, do you want to talk to me to make it a little bit more interactive? You don't have to if you don't want to.
If you'd like,
I don't
I
want to
can
put people
turn
on the spot, but
if you'd like, I can turn talking on with if you'd like to speak instead of just type in the chat.
so as you can see, the ratio between meat and by the time everything breaks down, it's more than half vegetable to meat. So a way, you know, to cut down your costs is to make chili and use lentils and half lentils, half meat, or, you know, lentils and walnuts. There's a lot of really good recipes if you can afford nuts that you can make your own, you know, different mock meat. But I love eggplant because eggplant has the texture and harshiness of meat, but it is a vegetable. So I'm going to put some Italian seasoning on here. I'm going to put the tomatoes so it can start breaking down. And I think I'm going to have to put the whole tomatoes because I don't think that's enough tomatoes in there. I'm going to cut those in half a little bit to make it easier to break down. I feel like kind of like Miles Davis when he doesn't want to show his face, but I do want to show my face. It's just that my orientation is this way. Rose, the day will come when my kitchen will be all, you know, camered up. So I just added fresh tomatoes. I think I'm going to add all of them. And if you didn't have fresh tomatoes and you didn't have canned tomatoes, you can use tomato paste and tomato sauce. So, you know, you just adapt with what you have. If you want to put pesto, I didn't know if I had, you know, canned tomatoes. So I have a can of red pesto. Then I was going to put that in there. That's made with red peppers. So as I said, if you have a good pantry, then you can adapt to make lots of different things and not have to feel like you have to order fast food. And I said, if you have a chance to go back and watch Food Stamped, it really is good. Showed that guy with the ramen, and so, you know, ramen. You know, like my daughter loves ramen, but she always has ramen with vegetables, and doesn't use the packet. And then usually I buy the fresh ramen noodles. You know, but if you have to use those ramen noodles, it's like, you know, use frozen vegetables to add some more nutrients to them. You know, instead of the packet, if you can get miso from the Asian market, go to the Asian market where miso is considerably less and flavor it with miso, which is a nutrient dense food. So see, this is cooking, it's cooking down. I'm going to switch and we're gonna make the, I'm gonna take this off for a second, Rose. We're gonna make the fettuccine.
Okay,
Alfredo.
we've got a couple of comments on Facebook. Pim said, I just wanted to say thank you for all the information and great recipes. It's all very clear, which is why I don't have any questions.
Oh, thank you. I try because Tim, like when I'm cooking, I'm not the best at doing two things at the same time. So I want to make sure I give you all the information. And if I don't, that you have it at your disposal when I'm not around. I also want you to be able to really make the recipes if I'm not around. So even though I want you to see that I cook without recipes, I'm a freestyle cook. I want you to have those recipes and use them as a base to be able to get experimental. All right, so I'm gonna take this off. I will cook it down more after, but I wanna be able to have you see all the recipes. So I cooked some pasta beforehand. So I'm just getting that ready. So fettuccine, just to get all my ingredients ready. It's a very quick recipe. So you want to have all your ingredients ready. So all it is cream. So I showed you that shelf-stable cream, whipping cream. Because I don't use a lot of cream. I don't use a lot of I like milk products, but not milk itself. So here, so you can use evaporated milk if you wanted to too. You can use oat milk. You could also use like cashew milk, one of the nut milks that has no vanilla, obviously, flavor in it. You know, so we're gonna have a little bit of butter. I'm going to use the small side to microplane, if you have a microplane, the zest of some lemon. And you don't want to get down to the white part, then it's bitter, right? So just be very slight in hand when you are zesting, and you could also use a sharp knife and just cut off and then just mince. It just takes more time, obviously. Lemon. I have grated Parmesan cheese, cream, salt. Did you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes, so. So this is not in the recipe, but it is on, I don't know if people are watching, is anyone watching Top Chef on Bravo? One of the chefs, they use mushroom powder that you can get in Asian markets. This is obviously restaurant size. I got it at the Indian market. So, but the Indian market is the Asian market. But it is Chinese. It's granulated mushroom, and you can do your own granulated mushroom, like ground shiitake mushrooms, ground porcini. If you don't want to, buy those, you can make your own and then mix it with a little salt if you want to, or just have it. But it adds really nice flavor. So that's a little secret that's not in the recipe. That's why you should watch these things, because I'm going to tell you stuff that's not in the recipe and make myself obsolete. So how many people make fettuccine from scratch? Because fettuccine, like the Alfredo sauce, is around at least $3-4, if not more. And all it is cream and cheese. That's it. And you can put a little garlic or onion if you want to, or the lemon zest just to add a little bit of taste. Right, so here I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to melt the butter. When you're melting butter, you always want to put a little bit of oil so it doesn't burn, because butter doesn't have a high melting content. So it becomes brown butter very easily. All right, and then put the garlic. You just want to make sure that the garlic doesn't burn. You can put the lemon. The lemon on the fire is going to activate the oils and the zest. It smells really great. You're going to put your cream. And then you're going to put your cheese. That's it. Have some pepper. And then secret, instead of salt, mushroom powder. See how it's thick? And then you can do it as thick or not thick as you want. And then, oh, shoot. I have shrimp, peas, and frozen spinach. Put that in first because the pasta's cooked. The shrimp is not. But shrimp doesn't take a very long time to cook. I'm going to turn this down because it's getting too thick. I'm going to add a little bit of pasta water to loosen it up a little bit. Put the pasta in there. That's it. So if I had artichokes, I put them in there. I know I put zucchini, but you can do spinach, you can do anything. And spinach is a spring vegetable, and so is peas. And that's what I had. So I didn't want to leave my house. So I think I did pretty well for not leaving the house. Right, so
And Marianne has said not made it at home, never made it at home. Presumably in regards to the Alfredo.
okay. So I'm just going to put a little bit more cheese. And that's it. I'm going to squeeze some lemon. You don't want to squeeze lemon at the beginning because then your cream will curdle. You don't want that. I'm going to put a little bit more butter in there. And that's it. Probably a little bit more pepper too. Is there any more questions? We have 20 minutes, but I never know how long these things are going to be. I don't want to have to rush when I'm cooking. So I could have done a dessert though, but I'm not a dessert person. She has some coconut chocolate chip cookies that are amazing. If we're done, then I am going to go eat some lunch because I didn't eat.
Marianne said, yes, but looks easy enough to make and looks delicious. I'm not sure what the yes is in response to.
Well, hopefully you'll make it. And as I said, you can use any kind of seasonal vegetables. You could roast vegetables at the beginning of the week, and then put them in your soups, put them in your salad, put them in your casseroles, put them in your stews. But this is something that would be really, put them in your pastas, easy to be able to just have your vegetables on hand, whatever vegetables you have. You want to use broccoli, you can use broccoli. You want to use zucchini, summer squash. You want to use, I almost put this delicata squash in there also. So you can do any type of vegetable that you want. If you want to add some pesto, you could do that. So it's like a really versatile recipe, and it's one of those things that lots of Americans like to eat, and there's no reason why you can't make it from scratch. So it has been great being with you this week. All week long, we have Camp Public Kitchen from 5:30 to 7:30. If you do not know how to cook, and even if you don't have a kid, you can watch. And so you can learn how to cook. Each day, we'll be learning a different meal. So Monday is breakfast, Tuesday is brunch, Wednesday is lunch, Thursday is dinner, and Friday is snacks, tea, and something else. But so if you watch all week long, you'll know how to make a variety of meals, both sweet and savory, very basic, and templates and formulas for you to build upon for later. I think it's really important for kids to learn how to cook. I learned how to cook at a very young age and took over cooking when I was in high school for my family. It was my chore. My mom said, like, instead of, do you want to wash dishes or do you want to cook? And I said, I want to, cook. That was more interesting to me. I also liked telling her, what to buy every week and feeling a little bossy, where, as a kid, there's not many things I could tell my mom what to do. So I think that it's important for kids to know how to cook. I think every adult needs to know how to cook because we have to eat 3 meals a day. And this is homage to, kids who can who might be home, parents are really busy, maybe online, teaching our kids how to cook not only helps them, but it also can help the family and be something that will be really great to contribute to. We're also each day doing exercises, STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, math activities, and also home activities. So the first activity we're doing on Monday is how to write a thank you note, and then talking about gratitude and thanks. But we're also going to do it in a STEAM kind of way. We're going to do it with invisible ink that we use with an acid that you can find in your kitchen. And we're doing breakfast. And for breakfast, we're making frittatas, we're making muffins, and we're making refried beans because many people around the world eat beans for breakfast. And so, this experience is about culture, history, food. On Tuesday, we're going to be growing food from scraps. So hopefully you can tune in, share it with someone that you think might benefit. At the end of the month, on the last Monday of this month, I'm doing Meatless Monday, and we are talking about the blue zones, which are people from around the world that have lived over 100. So there's 5 different communities: Costa Rica, Loma Linda in California, Sardinia, Okinawa. So these communities that have wonderful, delicious recipes and ways of living that promote longevity. So we'll be talking about that. So, and as always, this week we do not have co-create because I will be doing Camp Public Kitchen. But next week we will have Rick Rogers, who is a prolific cookbook author of his own, but he's also written, been a ghostwriter for many celebrities for their cookbooks and many brands. He'll be here next week, Wednesday. So thank you for joining us on this Sunday. I hope that you've learned some things. You can share the materials with anyone that you would like. They'll be open for anyone to be able to see, and hope benefit you and your meal planning. Thank you. Any more questions?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Bye, Rose.
You do have a couple comments in the chat. Thanks for a great presentation and hosting this. And on Facebook, thank you and awesome, bon appetit. And another thanks.
Thank you. Bye.